Hi, I'm Natalie Huschek, founder of Dignity Project, DBA Well Grounded Coffee, and we're here with our podcast, Turning Trauma into Triumph. I'm excited that today we're going to interview an amazing barista named Dana, who's been with us most of the year, 2025. And Dana experienced a stepfather who was sort of a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde character, which was really confusing for her. A lot of abuse, but then the next minute just as supportive as any dad you would hope for. If you stick with us till the end, and you're really going to want to, I'm going to share a great resource with you. If you're experiencing a crippling fear, anxiety, you're going to want this resource. So also, it helps us out a lot if you subscribe, so please subscribe and enjoy this episode. Hi, I'm Natalie Huschek, founder of the Dignity Project, DBA Well Grounded Coffee. We're here again at the Coffee House for another episode of Turning Trauma into Triumph, and I want to introduce you to a very special person, our barista. And you have a new last name.
I do. It's Lemons.
Lemons. Okay, not Muse.
Not Muse.
Anymore.
Not
okay,
anymore.
This is Dana Lemons. That's a
right.
great last name. I
Isn't
love
fun?
it.
I love it. Yeah.
So she's a newlywed.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. When did you get married?
June 21st.
Okay.
This year.
This has been quite a year for you.
Mm-hmm. It has.
So we hired you when?
April. Like seriously in April.
And you trained.
I trained.
And then you took a minute and you had a full neck surgery.
I did. Mm-hmm.
And then recovered. Well, actually, then you had a second neck surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Like you had one. How many days apart?
4 days.
4 days apart,
Mm-hmm.
second.
Mm-hmm.
And then recovered. You're still recovering.
Still recovering,
obviously.
Yeah. But yeah.
And then, came right back. And you're just so solid. We're just so grateful that you're here.
Me too. God is so good, you know.
So good, so faithful.
Yeah.
And I guess we met you actually through another barista.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that often, as we've done different interviews, that's often the story.
Mm-hmm.
Jessica was hired because of Hannah's word. Nikki was hired because of Jessica's word.
Yeah.
And then you and Jessica also
Right.
were friends first.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. That seems to work well.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So turning trauma into triumph. So in your life, tell us a little bit about the early years and what trauma may have looked like, what you're comfortable sharing with us.
Okay. Yeah. I've actually had quite a bit of trauma, from as early as I can remember. And it actually, I actually have a memory of being in my memory, I have those little arms on the baby carriers.
Mm-hmm.
I used to have this dream when I was a kid. And it was my mom was arguing with a man, and right before he'd punch her in the face, I would wake up. And so years later, I met my biological father. And right before I met him, I was talking to my mom about him, and that happened to be a memory. She was like,
It was a real memory.
It was a real memory.
You were so
and I was
little
a
bitty.
baby, like literally
Wow.
a baby. Yeah.
Amazing.
So anyway, so I mean, just, my life started with trauma. Who I call my dad, he was very abusive. It was really weird because it was like it was like Jekyll and Hyde. One day everything would be great, and we were best friends, and we'd go to the Texas Tech University together. He was in school, and we'd go there on his motorcycle, and I'd help him study, and I'd work on cars with him, and we were like best friends. But and then the next day he was just like literally just out of nowhere,
A whole different person.
beat me up real bad.
Was that drugs or alcohol induced or no?
I don't know. It has all the fingerprints of it, but he'll never admit any of that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It looks like it. And I do know that he used to, he would talk about being in college and partying, and he was in college. He didn't have the roommates then. He was with my mom, of course, and me and one of my other sisters. And, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Who knows?
yeah, but
And your mom was with him for quite a while?
they're still together now.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
Yeah, he's actually my father on my birth certificate. He's all I've ever known as Dad, and I love him to death.
Yeah.
I do. He's all I've ever known, but he's a little crazy.
Yeah. Okay.
I love you, Dad, but you're crazy.
That's
But,
not the
yeah.
environment that you feel safe in. You
No.
grow up feeling with a sense of it's almost like anything can happen. So you're
Right.
walking on pins and needles all the
all
time.
the time, yeah. And it was really weird too, because there was one of his friends molested me, and it was it was one of those things that as a kid, I was about 11 maybe, and as a kid, I didn't know what that was. I just knew that what he was doing didn't feel right, physically feel right, and it could do some things on my insides that I didn't prefer. And so, but there was one time that he came over to the house. My dad took a shower, and it was just, my mom worked nights, and so, I didn't have a lot of interaction. She would take us to school and take us to soccer practice or stuff like that, but that's about it.
Yeah.
And so everything else was left up to my dad. And so anyway, but this guy's name was Nick, and I remember him. I was playing the Nintendo, and I hated being in the living room with him, just me and him. And he was like, "Go get me a tea." And I was like, "Oh, this game doesn't stop." I was so scared all by myself with him. And anyway, he got
and you
up
hadn't
and
told anyone.
I hadn't told anybody because I didn't know what it was. He
Right.
rubbed me around on him, or touched me. And, but this time he kissed me and tried to stick his tongue in my mouth, and it was so gross.
And you're 11.
And I'm 11 years old. Yeah, and he had 2 kids too. And anyway, he and my dad would go and hang out. They were, friends from tech, and so when he left, and my dad got out of the shower and was like, "Well, where'd Nick go?" And like he left, but I wasn't going to tell my dad. And my mom got up to go get ready for school, for work, excuse me. And so I followed her to the laundry room, and I asked her if she liked him. Do you like Nick? And had she said yes, I don't know that I would have said anything, and it probably would have progressed. But she said, "I think he's kind of weird." And so I said, "Well, he kissed me, And so anyway, so she went and she told my dad, and of course, as soon as Nick got, that was, way before cell phones and stuff, so you couldn't just call somebody right away. So it's like, I think whenever he got home, he called to make sure I didn't tell on him.
Oh.
And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so he was confirming plans for the next time they were going to see each other. My dad was like, "Yeah, come on, I'm ready. Let's go do whatever." And it hurt my feelings so bad,
Yeah.
But the next day, Nick showed up, and my dad was out of that house and in the car before Nick even probably threw the car in park. And, it's parked in front of the house or next door, and I could see the spit flying out of his mouth, and we couldn't make out what he was saying, but he was being so loud, and, it was just like my heart started racing, and I was so excited. Like, we never saw Nick again.
Okay.
We drove by.
So there was a level of protection.
There was a huge level of protection when it came to certain things. But I had no protection from my dad, and I never knew it when it was coming, And so, CPS was called a few times, and found a case file later on in my life, and it just proved that he was an abusive father. But he was my first goalie coach. He taught me how to serve a volleyball. It was just so
It's been very
unbalanced,
confusing,
very
though,
unbalanced.
to be getting these extremes.
It was.
And then fast forward, then what happened when you left home, or your trauma? Did you use drugs?
I did.
And
yeah.
what started that?
Originally, it was friends. Started smoking pot with friends. Didn't know what it was. The first time I ever did acid, I was dating a guy, and he asked if I wanted some vitamin A. And I was kind of healthy. I was athletic, and I liked vitamins. I thought it was a real vitamin.
Okay.
I was so naive. And so I did some vitamin A and started having hallucinations and wigged out real bad. Was scared out of my mind.
Yeah.
And so... But
you didn't stop.
I didn't. Well, I didn't do any more acid for a long time.
Right.
But it did. The more that my dad kicked me out a whole bunch. My senior year in high school, 7 times, and so it was like every time that he would kick me out, I would stay with somebody, a friend and stuff, and try to go to school and try to get a job, or what I mean, try to be a normal person. But it always came with consequences. A lot of times it was about, I'd be thrown in parties, and, not that I didn't want to go to, I probably would have gone to the parties anyway, but, it put a very rebellious spin on things. When I started smoking cigarettes, I did it because my dad couldn't control it. Like, "I'll show you, Dad." You know what I mean? And so, and then of course, thank you, God, have just quit smoking.
Congratulations.
I'm 46 years old, so thank you.
Yeah.
So like 29 years later, you know what I mean? But it's just a lot of things that I didn't have to go through that I went through.
Yeah.
And then, of course, my boys, I have 3 boys, and they're adults now. They're 20, 23, and 24. I also raised 2 stepdaughters.
And did you have relationships with their dads?
With my
the
kids.
boys.
Well, yeah, we were married.
You were married?
Yeah, I was married
for a
before.
while?
Yeah.
And
that was abusive too.
that was abusive.
Yeah.
It's often the case, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So again, unsafe. You're in another unsafe
Mm-hmm.
place, and now you have babies.
Right. And all I wanted to do was for them to have a good life, and
Yeah.
they did not.
Yeah.
You know, it's very sad. They did
I'm
not.
sorry.
That's okay. You know, God's working on it. And God, you know, it's the one thing that I have come to know is that God really is so faithful.
Mm-hmm.
He is so faithful, and He loves us so much. And I might
Mm-hmm.
cry about this. It makes me so emotional because He's always right here. He's always right here with us.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't realize it. You know, we're so disconnected and we're so worried about what's going on in the world and stuff that a lot of times that it's just not a reality, you know. And I'll tell you, whenever my neck collapsed, it was collapsed for about 3.5 years. I should have died or worse. I was paralyzed for a short period of time from my neck down.
Was it an accident?
It was a bacteria.
Oh.
It was an infection.
Really?
Yeah. Well, that's what they think. We don't know exactly what happened.
Okay.
You know, it was a.
But you stayed in that state for 3 years?
3.5 years.
Without treatment?
Right. Yeah. And it took a while to get insurance lined up, doctors lined up, stuff like that. Now, I could have had the surgery right away, but some things happened that prevented that. So,
okay.
But I did wait, and but yeah, the neck surgery was caused by an infection, and it was very serious. My neck, I used to have a very normal neck, and then it collapsed. And so when we first met, you saw that my head was way down here. I couldn't hardly hold it up, and you know, I had come to terms that I'd probably live like that forever.
Yeah.
And then I started regeneration, and my sponsor, or not sponsor, my mentor was like, "When are you going to get your neck fixed? What's going on with that? We're worried about you." It's you know, and I just didn't realize how serious it was. I guess because I never saw me. You know, I'm not one of those people to look in the mirror very often, and so it didn't. Looking outward, I couldn't see it.
Well, even when we interviewed you, that's kind of the state that your neck was in.
Right.
So I remember that.
Yeah.
And you already had the idea that you were going to get it
at that time.
on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd been for about 4 months working on it. Whenever you and I met. Yeah.
Okay. So can you even imagine how confusing it is to have a parent that is 1 minute just loving and supportive, and the next minute just beating you up? The kind of fear, crippling fear that causes. We're going to deep dive into that kind of crippling fear and how Dana was able to manage it. If you have any kind of crippling fear, would you just put it in the notes below and just give us a response of what has been the crippling fear in your life? And now back to Dana. Okay. So Dana, with all that, you know, you're not just your neck, of course, that's, but the dichotomy of how you grew up with you said Jekyll Hyde dad, and then married also someone who is abusive and often just feeling throughout your life unsafe. What do you think is the hardest thing you still struggle with right now?
I would definitely say fear.
Yeah.
And I mean fear in all forms.
Yeah.
And it's one of those that, honestly, you know, I was real athletic, and I had many boys tell me that they were very nervous to ask me out because I was so strong-willed, and so I never in my life, you know, back then would have said fear. That never would have been my answer. But since I've gone through the rehab and regeneration, it's actually shown me that all of my responses to life have been fear-based.
Yeah.
Everything.
It's understandable.
And it's been very hard to, like my husband now, oh, God bless his heart. He's been so good to me and so faithful to me. And he, you know, I didn't deserve that. He got me at the worst, and I was running on scared all the time. And I would get to a point where my anxiety would get so bad that I would literally jump out of the car at the middle of an intersection, or you know, not know what's going on. And I mean, and then I do have some PTSD issues, and that would spring up, and you know, and just not know where I was all of a sudden, you know, and just kind of trying to get through life and try to be okay, and just not be okay. You know?
Well, I think we all struggle with fear. You know, even in our team meeting, you know, we said, what is the thing that you struggle with? And some people said fear of failure. Some people said fear of succeeding.
Yeah.
I mean, just fear everywhere, right? And certainly in our society right now for many reasons. But your fear is a whole I think, a whole nother level. I think it makes sense when a person is consistently abusive or obviously consistently kind, but when they flip back and forth and you never know what to expect,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole different kind of fear to move through, I think. And so here you are, I hear you speaking of your faith. What is it that has helped you the most, to really not be living in fear every day? When you have moments of success, what would you say you would attribute that to?
I would say Jesus Christ, and that's the truth for me. I've heard about grace for a long time, and I've heard about Jesus for a long time, but I've actually gotten to the point where I firmly believe that Jesus Christ died for my sins. He died a horrible death, and that every single day that I breathe, I'm here for a reason. I don't know what that reason is exactly, but I'm here for a reason. Once I start praying and I get my breathing under control, and so it works. It works for me to know that it doesn't matter what I do, that I am loved more than I'll ever know, and that there's nothing on this earth that it could affect me that would create what everything I've already gone through it all in a bad way, and I don't ever have to do that again.
Right.
Everything's different now.
Your life is safer.
It's so much safer.
But often that traumatized brain,
yeah,
you still feel like you're not
panics,
safe.
Yeah.
You still do the fight or flight.
For no reason,
Yeah.
too.
I know.
A lot of times.
Well, your brain reads it as real,
Right.
even if it's not physically real, right? So it's still real.
Very real.
And so you're saying the difference is not necessarily fear to no fear. It's what you can do, knowing that you have a solution.
Right.
When you feel the fear.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Knowing that I don't have to panic and go through whatever it is in a fear response. I can stop right then and there and, pray about it. And then, God, is this real? I mean, do I have reason to be scared right now? Fill me with your truth and let me know what to do.
There you go.
And, that I do that a lot, a whole lot.
I love that. So your fear level it may be somewhat less, but not necessarily less, but it's just that you know who to turn to. You know where to turn when you have that.
Right.
That's amazing. That's a gift.
Yeah. It really is.
Yeah.
It's a blessing. It is.
And you're a gift here at Well Grounded.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, so are you.
Oh, thank
really,
you.
You really are.
Thank you.
Not just here, but
I always
many
say
places.
this. I always say this. Stay forever, please.
Yes.
Don't leave.
Okay, deal.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Dana.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope this was helpful to you. Again, this is our episode of Turning Trauma into Triumph. How brave is Barista Dana? Amazing. She's so inspiring. Really, really, again, thank you for joining us. Again, please subscribe. And we promised you a resource. This is a resource that I use at our team meetings, and it's my favorite grounding resource, and it's called the Butterfly. What it literally does is engages both hemispheres of your brain. And so you're going to put your hands like this, thumbs out, cross them over so you see the butterfly on your chest, and just gently pat back and forth. It's a calming, it engages, again, both hemispheres of your brain and actually just calms you. So in any situation, if you're experiencing crippling fear, anxiety, even depression, this is a really great tool to have in your toolbox. Thanks for joining us today for another episode of Turning Trauma into Triumph.